Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to talk about my new project, which I'm calling the 25-Day Challenge, where I see if I can code a complete dungeon crawl game in 25 days. First of all, what is a dungeon crawl? Well, I'm defining it as a game that mimics the subject of early tabletop role-playing, meaning that a group of fantasy-themed characters go into an underground environment, braving various dangers, in particular monsters, in search of treasure, and the underground environment is not optimized for plausibility or realism, it's optimized for making an interesting game. Why explore this genre? Well, because it's a major genre of computer role-playing games and I haven't addressed it so far. I have done a game that was based in an underground complex, but it wasn't quite what I'd call a dungeon crawl. So after 400 videos, I thought, let's look at this genre and see what we can do with it. The first thing that I did was I made a list of the minimum things that I wanted to have in order to feel like I had completed the assignment, as it were. The reason for that is twofold. Firstly, it gives me something to do when I'm not sure what to do next. I can say, oh, well, I haven't done magic items yet, so let's get into that and make a couple of magic items. It also stops me getting too caught up in particular features that I find interesting. So, for example, I find randomly generating names really interesting, and I can add more and more features to an algorithm for randomly generating names. I could happily spend 25 days just doing that, and having a list taps me on the shoulder and says, well, this is great, but you've got 10 things that you haven't done yet. So it stops me getting too caught up in something and then not finishing other things that need to be done. If we get everything done, well, yeah, I can look at things that I find particularly interesting, but let's make sure that we get everything done first. What I'd like to do with the rest of this video is read through some of the list. I won't get through the whole thing. So some games in this genre, you have a single player character. Some games in this genre, you control a party. To me, a party is more interesting. Having a group of characters is more interesting. But I don't like games where you control a party, but none of them is you in particular. I want to have a single character that is the player, and if that character dies, then the game is over. But also that player gets other characters to come into the dungeon with them. I want to have the game represent several trips into the dungeon. It's not a single expedition. This is based on my experience of a particular game called Sorcerer's Cave, which is a physical game with cards, but also has a computer version, and I've played the computer version a lot. And I really like it, but it stops once you leave the dungeon. Once you leave the dungeon, that's the end of that particular game, and you have to start again. And to me, it feels like that should be the beginning of the game. You leave the dungeon, and then things happen based on how much treasure you've got and how many people died, etc. And then you do another expedition, and things are slightly different based on that. So I want to have the game represent several trips into the dungeon. Choice of abilities. The characters should have a variety of abilities, and the player gets to choose from among several choices, and that can be by having different classes and races, or it could be that there's a list of skills and the player chooses one, or something else, but there should be some sort of player choice. You can choose to have a different sort of character and the game will play in a different way as a result. In particular, the players should have access to spells, at least the choice of having spells. One thing that I don't like about some role-playing games is that you meet monsters, you fight them, and they fight to the death. This seems less interesting than it could be to me, and not very realistic. I mean, it's a bit hypocritical to be bothered about realism when I'm specifically saying that a dungeon isn't realistic, but I just don't like that idea. It seems less interesting to me. And so I would like to have monster reactions, meaning that some monsters might be friendly or hostile, or some might attack on sight, but others might be hostile but not attack straight away, and so on. And that there should be morale for the monsters, which means that they don't fight to the death, but if things are going against them, they will run away, surrender, negotiate. And that's about halfway through the list, and that seems to be all we have time for. So I will leave it there for now. I'll take up the rest of this list in the next video probably. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.